Ysgramor, a figure etched deeply into the annals of Nord history, rose to prominence in the frozen expanse of Atmora through a combination of strength, charisma, and unyielding resolve. Born amidst the harsh and unforgiving cold, Ysgramor emerged as a leader whose influence would ripple through the ages. His ascent to power was not simply a matter of bloodline or birthright, but a result of his exceptional ability to unite the disparate clans of Atmora. In his early years, Ysgramor was a formidable warrior, known for his prowess in battle and his unbreakable spirit. His rise was marked by a series of conquests and diplomatic maneuvers that saw him unify the warring clans of Atmora. This unification was crucial as the Atmorans, despite their shared heritage, were fragmented into numerous clans with their own rivalries and traditions. Ysgramor's leadership brought these tribes together, laying the foundation for a collective identity that would later define the Nordic people. Central to Ysgramor's legend is his gathering of the 500 companions, a group of warriors who would become as legendary as their leader. These companions were more than mere followers. They were an elite cadre of fighters bound by loyalty and shared purpose. The 500 companions were instrumental in both the internal consolidation of Atmoran tribes and the subsequent migration to Tamriel. Their skills and valor were matched only by their unwavering loyalty to Ysgramor, and together they faced both the challenges of their homeland and the uncertainties of the journey that lay ahead. Ysgramor's leadership and the formation of the 500 companions are not merely historical footnotes, they are the stuff of legend that continues to shape the identity of the Nords. The stories of their bravery and honor, of battles fought and victories won, became the backbone of Nordic culture and tradition. The 500 companions were more than just warriors. They were the vanguard of a new era, the harbingers of the Nordic way of life, as it would come to be known in Tamriel. As Atmora's harsh climate began to drive its inhabitants towards desperation, the unity forged by Ysgramor and his companions would become even more significant. The legend of Ysgramor and his warriors symbolizes not only the strength and courage of the early Nords, but also their ability to face adversity and carve out a place for themselves in a new and challenging world. Ysgramor's arrival in Tamriel was more than a migration. It was the dawn of a new era for the Nords. As we turn to the importance of Sarthal, the story of this pivotal city reveals much about the early interactions between Nords and the native inhabitants of Tamriel. Sarthal, the first significant Nordic settlement on the continent, was founded as a beacon of Nord culture and governance. Ysgramor, determined to make his mark on this new land, established Sarthal as a testament to his people's resilience and ambition. The city was more than a mere settlement. It was a symbol of the Nord spirit, a place where the customs, laws, and societal structures of Atmora began to take root in Tamriel. The architectural style of Sarthal reflected its origins. The city's design bore the unmistakable marks of Atmoran influence, sturdy stone structures designed to withstand the harshest of climates, and vast halls intended for grand gatherings and ceremonies. This architecture would become a hallmark of Nordic construction, seen in future cities like Windhelm and Whiterun. However, Sarthal's establishment was not without its challenges. Relations with the native elves, particularly the snow elves, eventually deteriorated. The snow elves, who had long inhabited the region, were able to coexist with the Nords at least initially. However, the Nords' expansion and settlement ultimately threatened their dominance, leading to escalating tensions. The Nords, for their part, were intent on establishing their presence firmly and were unprepared for the fierce resistance they faced. Sarthal's significance went beyond its immediate role as a settlement. It represented the beginning of Nordic influence in Tamriel, serving as a focal point for Nordic culture and power. The city's fall during the Night of Tears, however, was a devastating blow to the Nords. The destruction of Sarthol by the elves marked a turning point, leading to Ysgramor's vengeful return and the subsequent conflict that reshaped the region. In the aftermath of Sarthol's destruction, the city became a symbol of both loss and triumph for the Nords. The legend of Sarthol's fall and the rebuilding of its legacy became central to Nordic lore. The events surrounding Sarthol laid the groundwork for the Nords' claim to Tamriel, setting the stage for future conflicts and the eventual dominance of the Nords in the region. Ysgramor's establishment of Sarthol, its subsequent destruction, and the legendary battles that followed were crucial in shaping the Nordic identity and their place in Tamriel. The city stands as a monument to the endurance and strength of the Nords, embodying the trials and triumphs that marked their early history in the new land. The Night of Tears stands as a grim testament to the volatility of early Nordic history, a night when the bright future of the fledgling Nord civilization was extinguished in a blaze of conflict and loss. Sarthol, the first city founded by Ysgramor and his companions, became the stage for this tragic event, a pivotal moment in the struggle for Nordic dominance in Tamriel. The assault on Sarthol was orchestrated by the Snow Elves, an ancient and enigmatic race whose enmity with the Nords had long simmered beneath the surface. The reasons for this ferocious attack remain a subject of debate. Some suggest it was driven by a desire to reclaim lost territories or to quell the growing Nord presence that threatened their dominance. Others posit that the Snow Elves, facing their own internal crises, saw the destruction of Sarthol as a way to weaken their formidable enemies. The belief that the Night of Tears was significantly influenced by the Eye of Magnus primarily stems from high elf narratives, which some scholars argue may be steeped in Thalmor propaganda. Many Altmer historians and scholars suggest that the brutal attack on the Nords was not merely a territorial aggression, but rather a calculated move to seize this powerful artifact, known for its unparalleled magical prowess. From the Altmer perspective, the Eye of Magnus symbolizes immense power, its potential to grant knowledge and mastery over the arcane arts deeply revered among their kind. In this view, the Snow Elves felt an urgent need to protect the artifact from falling into the hands of what they considered barbaric Nord settlers. The narrative holds that the Snow Elves, perceiving the Nords as unworthy of such power, sought to eliminate any threat to their cultural and magical heritage. However, it is crucial to approach this interpretation with skepticism. Many believe that this account serves the interests of the Thalmor, who seek to frame the Snow Elves' actions in a more favorable light, positioning them as guardians of ancient knowledge rather than as aggressors. This portrayal can easily be seen as an attempt to justify the violence of the Night of Tears while downplaying the treachery involved in the attack. Certain members of my own order, many of whom are of high elf origin, believe this theory to have some credence, and if there is any truth to it, would only serve to illuminate the greed and treachery of the ancient elves, who attempted to eliminate an entire race in service of their own selfish desires. Regardless of the motive, the attack was a devastating blow to the Nord settlers. What is known for sure is the Snow Elves were almost certainly Merethic supremacists and viewed the cleansing of the Atmoran people to be much akin to the disposing of a pest. The Night of Tears unfolded with a savagery that left few survivors. The Snow Elves, employing their advanced knowledge of magic and warfare, overwhelmed the city's defenses with ruthless efficiency. The destruction was near total. Buildings were set ablaze, and the once thriving city was reduced to smoldering ruins. Ysgramor's sons fell in the chaos, their deaths marking a profound personal and cultural loss for the Nords. Their tragic end not only struck a blow to the heart of the Nord leadership, but also symbolized the fragility of their nascent civilization in the face of relentless adversaries. It is not known from whence the following excerpt was found, but its intact discovery is beyond remarkable. Translated from Proto-Nordic script, it captures succinctly the efficient and brutal nature of the attack. To quote, "The night was still, a silence that would never seem whole again, broken only by the haunting memory of screams that clawed the air as the snow fell. We had made this land ours, a place of hope and refuge after the bitter battles of Atmora. And here we were to live in peace. It was a land where the heart could beat in rhythm with family and kin, where we could shape our lives beyond the blood and ice of the old ways. Or so we had believed. I can still feel the sting of cold as it seeped into my bones that night, but it was not the frost that chilled me. It was the treachery of our supposed allies, the snow elves. They had walked among us, shared fires with us, and their smiles had been those of comrades. We let them into our homes, shared our bread, and even our children grew to know their faces as trusted friends. In return, they bared fangs under the cover of darkness, turning peace into slaughter. The first clash came so sudden, I thought it a terrible nightmare. I had been at the edge of the city, near the fires, watching the stars above when the first arrow struck. A soundless, glinting shaft that buried itself into the neck of my friend, Valdemar. He fell before he could gasp, his blood staining the snow. And then I heard them, a surge of footsteps, quiet as shadows, but their eyes, they burned. The elves came from all sides, cold and white as the frost, with faces empty of mercy. Blades flashed in the moonlight, swift and silent, and every stroke took a life before a shout could be raised. I stumbled back, disbelief heavy in my chest, as I watched our people, men, women, children, cut down without pause, without mercy. Blood pooled in the snow, steam rising from the warmth of life taken too soon. I had never seen cruelty so sharp, so deliberate. These were not battles of valor or honor. These were acts of cowardice, wielded in the guise of friendship. They cut throats as one would slice meat, and children who clung to their mothers' skirts found themselves swept up in that silent tide of death. There was no outcry, no warning. Their faces, blank as ice, seemed to savor each life taken, as though we were mere animals to be slaughtered. In the midst of the chaos, I fought to protect my kin, gripping my horn, made from the tusk of a mammoth I had slain so many moons ago. With a desperate breath, I raised it to my lips, knowing I had to sound the alarm. I unleashed a clarion call that sliced through the stillness, echoing across the rocky pillars of Sarthal. Had I not sounded the horn, I believe every life to a man would have been extinguished that night. The snow elves in their style crept in like thieves, slitting throats without warning. My own blade found a few of them, for I could not stand idle as they tore my people apart. I remember the heat of rage, the blind fury, as I swung my axe with all the strength my ancestors had ever known, splitting bone and flesh, feeling their blood warm on my hands. But there were too many, and their blows were quick and exact. It was no battle. It was butchery. I live with the shame of my survival to this day. I fear I will not see my kin in Sovngarde, as I was knocked out from some varietal of their heathen magics. To think they had eaten with us, that we had welcomed them, only to see their faces twisted in joy as they tore our homes asunder. By dawn, the city was a ruin, and my heart a raw wound of hate. This was not war. It was a massacre, a betrayal that would etch itself in my bones for as long as I breathed. I swore to the gods of my ancestors that we would rise again, that we would remember, and that the snow would run red with the blood of every last elf until justice was done. And so we live on, we few who remain, not out of fear, but out of vengeance." End quote. I find myself struggling with the duty to maintain an unbiased account of such a deeply tragic and harrowing event. The massacre of the Nords by the Snow Elves, an act brutal in its calculation and devastating in its consequences, forces a level of detachment that feels almost unnatural. Scholars are meant to sift through the ashes of history with clear minds, to observe without becoming entangled in the grief or anger of those long departed. Yet there are moments in history when even the most disciplined of minds is drawn towards sympathy, and this massacre was one of them. The survivors' accounts haunt me, each retelling saturated with a bitterness and sorrow that is impossible to ignore. Many describe the snow elves as friends, allies who dined at Nordic tables and mingled freely among them under the guise of trade. And yet, on that night, they brought death upon their hosts with a swiftness and cruelty that defies a detached view. The Nords' grief, born of betrayal by those they had trusted, seeps into every record, each word heavy with a rage that I, too, in reading and rereading these accounts, struggle to set aside. Perhaps I would better serve history by embracing this challenge rather than denying it, to recognize that while a historian may strive for objectivity, we are not immune to the pull of human experience, especially when the cost of conflict and mistrust is as clear and brutal as it was on the night when blood stained the snow in the icy halls of Sarthal. As it were, Ysgramor's response to the devastation was one of fiery determination and unyielding resolve. Fueled by grief and rage, he rallied the surviving members of the 500 companions, calling upon them to avenge the loss of Sarthal and his sons. This call to arms was not merely a quest for vengeance, but a pivotal moment that redefined Nord resilience and their capacity for collective action. The ensuing campaign against the Snow Elves was marked by a fierce and bloody struggle. Ysgramor, with the 500 companions at his side, pursued the Snow Elves across Skyrim, engaging them in a series of brutal battles. The conflict, now known as the extermination of the Snow Elves, was a decisive period in Nordic history. The surviving old guard of the 500 took their time with the malefic race of Myr, and exacted a righteous blood toll for their slain kin. He led his warriors back to Skyrim with a single purpose: to exact vengeance upon the Snow Elves who had betrayed and massacred his people. The battle was brutal, a clash of iron and spirit against frost and despair. The warfare that ensued was not merely about territory, it was about obliteration. The Snow Elves, once proud and feared, were driven to near extinction, their presence in Tamriel relegated to the pages of history and the whispers of legends. Merethic treachery has often known few limits, as the Nordic people learned quite early. The lessons of the betrayal would carry on through many generations after the traumatic events at Sarthal. Due to the purpose and nature of the attack by the Snow Elves, few, if any, prisoners were taken by the Nords. The Snow Elves were driven into hiding, and many were eventually forced to seek refuge in the depths of Blackreach, where they would become the degenerate Pale Folk, now a shadow of their former selves. Ysgramor's companions became legends not only for their bravery, but also for their relentless pursuit of justice. Ysgramor's vengeance was not solely about retribution, it was also about securing the future of the Nord people. With the Snow Elves vanquished and their threat neutralized, the Nords could consolidate their position in Skyrim, ensuring their dominance over the land. The rebuilding of Sarthal was a symbol of this newfound strength, a testament to the resolve of the Nord people in the face of treachery. As we bring to a close the epic tale of Atmora, we honor a people who not only endured, but thrived amidst the harshest of conditions and the duplicitous schemes of their enemies. In the frozen expanse where many would falter, the Atmorans stood as paragons of endurance and strength. Their story is a vivid testament to the power of resilience. While the Snow Elves plotted in the icy shadows, the Atmorans forged a thriving civilization from the very heart of the frozen wilderness. Their unyielding spirit and unbreakable unity transformed a harsh and unwelcoming land into a cradle of Nordic culture and strength. The legacy of Atmora, marked by its people's ability to overcome betrayal and the relentless cold, remains a shining example of how courage and determination can defy even the greatest of challenges. Their triumphs continue to inspire, a beacon of hope and strength for all who face adversity. Where Mer failed, man certainly triumphed.